Cathy, may I have all the honor of board here? Okay. What do you need? The board welcome.
Good morning. My name is Miriam Andrews Auman. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees and the UU Singers. Welcome to our service. Unitarian Universalism encourages an open-ended search for meaning in life and a commitment to asking our values to shape our actions. We're a pluralistic religion that draws wisdom from many sources. We welcome all people into our beloved community of whatever age, race, class, ethnicity, physical ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or religious background. We especially welcome those of you who may be worshiping with us for the first time. We invite you to join us downstairs after service for coffee and snacks so we can get to know each other better. Guests are welcome to participate in any activities in our community. If you would like more information about the congregation, or if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me or many of the people here, especially those with the yellow tags. Thank you for your presence here today, whether in person or online.
And a second good morning. My name is Ann Harrington. I wear several hats, but today I'm coming to you as a Board of Trustee member, but more importantly, the interim search negotiation committee. And I am happy to tell you that as of this week, we have signed a contract with our interim minister, and he will be coming as of August 7th, 6th, 7th. We'll be giving his first sermon here on the 7th. So he'll be coming amongst all the second time around sale, but we are looking forward to working with him, letting him guide us through the process. And I encourage you all to be part of that process when the time is appropriate. Like I said, he will be beginning to work with the Board of Trustees at our retreat that weekend. But I am so happy to say that Reverend Patrick Price is going to be with us.
Good morning. I'm Lucia, Auman, and Cathy, Wiedeman, and I are doing the service today. For the chalice lighting, if we can have the slide for that. The next slide. If we would say this together. As we light this chalice, may it illuminate our capacity for compassion and understanding, for our thoughts, in our hearts, and with our actions. Opening words today are from Thich Nhat Hanh. If you are motivated by loving kindness and compassion, there are many ways to bring happiness to others right now. Start with kind speech. This is the first time Cathy and I have done this in a very long time. And so we're kind of following as things go along. So Miriam, you're going to lead the hymns. Good.
Our opening hymn is number 146. Please stand in body and or spirit.
Soon the day will arrive when we will be together, and no longer will we live in fear. And the children will smile without wondering ever. On that day, thunder clouds will appear. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Some have dreamed, some have died to make a bright tomorrow, and our vision remains in our heart. Now the torch must be passed with new hope, not in sorrow, and a promise to make a new start. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me.
Good morning, friends. If you want to come up and join me, I would love that. The kids.
So today in service, they are talking about patience. I am thinking about a lot of times where I've been patient recently. What times have you all been patient? Do you have anything you remember about being patient for something? Fiona. Going to the water park, waiting for the weekend maybe? Yeah. I've been being yes, Charlotte. Field day at school. You have to wait till like the last week of school, right? Yeah. The second last week. Yeah. I have been really patient waiting I planted watermelons in my garden, like little small ones. So I thought, well, I don't have to be as patient for the small ones. And I've been thinking like, oh, it's going to take forever for these watermelons to grow, right? And they have these really beautiful leaves. Has anyone seen watermelons growing? They grow on these beautiful leafy vines, and the leaves are all over, like 2 beds in my garden they've spread. And I've been thinking, well, I have to wait for these flowers to turn into watermelons. But then this week, I lifted up some of those leaves, and there are these tiny little watermelons already growing. So I've been being really patient, but they're already there. They're already happening. They look like these little alien pods, these green little, I'm so excited about it. They're so cute. So the earth, it makes me think about how the earth is really patient. Fiona, you're growing cucumbers? Yes, and cucumbers are the same. They start out so tiny, start out as the flowers, right? And then they're these tiny, tiny little cucumbers, and then they grow. Yeah, I bet you are. Pumpkins grow very similar to watermelons. Yes. Awesome. You're going to be patient for next year, and next year they'll grow. Yes. I think a lot of it, the volunteer pumpkin. So I have been thinking about how the earth is really patient, and I wrote myself notes for this one. The earth is super patient, and the earth, like the history of the earth is very long. And so I have this cool thing that I learned, and it has to do with our arms. So if you want to hold out your arm with me. Ready? Okay. So we're going to do the history from when Earth started to when we were here. Okay, so wiggle your little finger. You can wiggle like this finger, your pointer finger. Okay, so everyone, you want to hold your hand to your chin? You all can do this too if you want. All right, so this right here is when the Earth was formed. Okay, right here. That was, does anyone know how long ago that was? Yeah. 4.5 billion years ago. That's so long. 4.5 billion years ago, I can't even conceptualize it. That's why we have our chin. Yes, we're going to get there too. All right, so next is here, where your neck meets your shoulder, kind of. So that is when our moon was formed. Does anyone know how our moon was formed? Charlotte does. Yeah, something hit our Earth, right? And part of it broke off and became our moon. Cool. All right, so next is your shoulder. Actually, just kidding. Next is your armpit. Put your little finger in your armpit. Yeah. All right, so that's awesome. That's 4 billion years ago. And that's when we first had like even a little bit of inkling of life. And then put your hand on your bicep. Do you have a strong bicep? Okay, so I love this part. This is like my favorite. This is when we had this thing called the oxygenation event. And that's when we started to have this really cool algae called cyanobacteria. So it's this blue-green algae. And it was formed in the oceans, right? And it made it so that we could have oxygen in our atmosphere. So it's called the oxygenation event, right there on your bicep. And since there was oxygen, then life could start forming. So then, all the way. We're going to go all the way from our bicep all the way down to your palm. Ready? And it took all that time for there to be any sort of like large life forms crawling out of the ocean. Yeah, it's a timeline. Yes. So that's your palm. That's when there was large life forms. And then Charlotte mentioned the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are all the way up. Ready? Like in the middle of your pointer finger. All the way up there. So we kind of think of them as like all the way back here, right? All the way up here. There was like such patience for anything like that to happen. All right. And then we're going to go to the middle of the tip of your pointer finger. See that? The middle of like that last section. And that's when like the apes came down from the trees and started living in the grasslands. And then all the way up, like the last sliver of your nail, your fingernail, it's not even on your finger anymore. That's when like modern humans started to be, like the last sliver of your fingernail. That takes a lot of patience for something like us to be here. And it makes me wonder what's out here, like past our fingers. What's going to be happening? It's so cool. So, long time from here to here, the earth is patient. And I am not as patient as the earth, but I will try to be patient. So, what helps me be patient is taking deep breaths and remembering our meditations. So should we do one together? How about our balloon breath? So imagine your favorite color balloon in there. Take a deep breath in. Balloon gets big and out. The balloon gets smaller. And in and out. I'm going to come downstairs with me. All right.
Good morning again. It's what Aubrey was talking about fits in somewhat to what I've been thinking about. I wonder if at this point on our planet, we would do well to have a course correction. And if so, what is most needed for that to happen? There's a quote I have seen attributed to the Dalai Lama, to Dr. King, to Mother Teresa, and they may well have said it. But originally it was said by Henry James to his nephew. 3 things in human life are important. The first one is to be kind. The second one is to be kind. The third one is to be kind. When asked about the way to ultimate success, this statement was repeated by another one of our dear spiritual leaders, Mr. Rogers in the neighborhood. If kindness is the ultimate element for human life and the way to ultimate success, can being kind provide the needed shift? It could make a difference if we were kinder to our planet. Imagine having stronger efforts to reduce global warming. Imagine if we thought about our individual overuse of her elements and minerals and waters that we need for life. Yes, I think it would help if we were kinder to our home that sustains us. Will it help if we, her children, are kinder to each other? I see kindness happening in this congregation all the time. Ladles of love, that was a kindness, or is a kindness. Tracy, Brian, and Stella holding space at Faye's Field for music on Thursday nights is a kindness. Erica and, okay, I've lost Erica and Steve. Steve, they host game night. That was fun. That is a kindness too. All of you who contributed to the financial match, you did that out of kindness. We have kindness happening, but do we need more? You can go on Pinterest and you can find all sorts of ways to do random acts of kindness. You can find lovely quotes on Pinterest. You can even find organizations that will inspire you and you can join to do kindness. We use those and we can use those as motivations. My daily touchstone is a refrigerator magnet. And on that refrigerator magnet it says, can we have the next slide? Be kind, no exceptions. And I've added no excuses because we can always make an excuse. This is an ideal. Rarely is it 100% possible. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese monk who recently died and who many of us follow, and even some in the Quad Cities have had as their teacher, seemed to do it very well. But for the rest of us, it can be a goal, an intention for our lives. We can strive for it, particularly when we have felt wronged or experienced injustice. For each of us to grow happiness in our lives, to support ourselves and each other to be our best selves, and to continue to build a beloved community, as well as a sustainable world, I believe it is worth the effort. Being kind is a choice you make. It isn't a random act. It is an intentional exercise. And sometimes that choice requires courage, especially when we experience harm to ourselves or to those we love. How to be kind in those situations? You make the choice. We make the choice to become mindful and to reprogram our response. Viktor Frankl, who wrote the well-known book Man's Search for Meaning and was a Holocaust survivor, said, and that is the next slide, please, between stimulus, what has happened, and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Growth? Yes, because we have been biologically programmed, as Aubrey was talking about hundreds of thousands of years ago, that when we feel threatened or misunderstood or unsafe, our primal brain, the reptilian brain, will kick in and command fight, flight, or freeze. In everyday life, the reptilian brain can be activated because the emotional part of our brain, the limbic brain, compares something that happened in the past at a time when we felt emotionally threatened to something that is happening in current time. And if it makes a connection, which we aren't always aware of, it will give the information to the present situation that there is danger. And we will use our historical reptilian types of coping. We'll react in a primal pattern and perceive that threat that really isn't there. Let me give you an example. Some of you may remember the brilliant Irene Weavers. Doug, Laura, you probably remember her. She was a member of our congregation, a psychiatrist, and died several years ago. She was very direct and very sparing in her conversation. I once imagined that she had a small allotment of words she allowed herself to use every day. In my early professional years, I felt very intimidated by her, especially by her silence. It took all I had to talk with her. But I admired her, and she could be very helpful. But I didn't like my fear of her. So I did some work on self awareness, exploring why she triggered such fear in me. What came up was when I was a gabby 10-year-old, talking to one of my mother's visitors when my mother was busy with something. I don't know what I said, but I do know the woman said nothing. She sat and stared at me. And then something was said. And what I remember was feeling humiliated. In present time, it was my 10-year-old self who was afraid of humiliating herself again that was responding to Irene, not my adult self. So I told Irene about it. She chuckled. She congratulated me for working that out, and then immediately went on to something else. In the following years, now not so intimidated, I got to know her a bit better when I would bring her soup, and she would borrow my binoculars so that she could watch several owls in the trees across from her house or across the meadow from her house. We have been programmed for thousands of years to respond this way. All of us have that programming. The same is happening to those people who have upset us. So when they are feeling threatened, they defend as we defend when we're feeling unsafe. Now we see each other's behavior as threatening to our safety, so we treat people differently. We become the us and them. When we continually recite grievances that have hurt us, when we focus on how horrible they are, we will keep triggering that hurt and that fear and that need to defend. They are the threat. We are defending against the threat. And that's when we begin to feel righteous about ourselves and our actions. Our actions are to defend against the monster. And each time the monster is attacked, told it's bad, it defends and it grows bigger. Now we've established a pattern of fear attack self-righteousness, which develops into an often deadly power struggle. It could be physical death, the death of a friendship, or the death of understanding. Now, there are times of outright aggression, deep horror, and that's real. But in our everyday life, we may make meaning of an action or an utterance that is declared dangerous by our younger self. As we protect ourselves, we build up hate and hurt over a figment of our imagination. Or we may be believing misinformation, lies. And some of those lies were designed by the liar to trigger our fear. There is another way. During those hundreds of thousands of years, we also developed the cortical brain. In the prefrontal cortex, we are able to reason, to get curious, to evaluate consequences of possible behavior. My thought is that after hundreds of thousands of years, it may be time to reprogram ourselves, to move beyond the reptilian reaction and utilize our prefrontal cortex, where we can choose kindness and grow to be free. Kindness to ourselves, each other, the Mother Earth, and all in the cosmos. It means to know how to manage fear, but how do we do that when we feel threatened and not safe? We come home to ourselves. In that space between stimulus and response, we stop and we breathe. We breathe deeply. When we are in a reptilian posture, frozen, or flight, our breathing is shut down or we aren't breathing fully. With attention to the breath, we can calm ourselves, moving into our prefrontal cortex, becoming aware of our triggers, our own survival patterns. But importantly, we become aware that those we label dangerous and harmful are also reacting to a perceived threat. They also feel the need to feel safe. We may see them as giving us a hard time, as they may see us as giving them a hard time. But in reality, we are having a hard time. Imagine several hundred thousands of years from our originally becoming human, we began to reprogram ourselves to interrupt the primitive urges and go to the cortical brain where we can understand and develop compassion. What if we make the intention that our reactions will be kind and we will stop and breathe when we feel unsafe and center ourselves? What if we made kind intentions to get curious, to understand? We may learn that the other has made a meaning of something, has interpreted something that has been done or said, but it isn't what we originally intended, and we can talk it through. I saw a situation where a person tossed a candy wrapper onto the ground. An environmentally minded person went off on them, telling them about trash and about not respecting Mother Earth. The candy eater respectfully listened and then said, I had opened that earlier to eat part of it, but I threw it away now because it has a bee inside of it, and I'm horribly allergic to bee stings. Imagine if the environmentalist in that space between stimulus and response had simply taken a breath and kindly and honestly told the candy eater he was concerned about litter. Sometimes being kind means setting boundaries, sometimes strong boundaries and saying no. This is a mild example, but let's say the candy eater just littered. We could ask him to pick it up. Or the boundary might be that he would be invited to leave the area or could be fined. But the boundary setting, the saying no, must be done from kindness. It must be done or said out of concern and caring, not out of anger. Anger is an attack. Anger holds our fear and our hurt. If we're feeling anger, irritated, frustration, and we do, we know that we are responding to something inside of us, and we need to get right with ourselves in order to extend kindness to the others with whom we're having conflict. Then we have more ability to understand and be compassionate. We must remember the other is responding to fear out of not feeling safe or from misinformation. In that space between stimulus and response, we can choose kindness. Our response can be to listen, to understand another person, to understand their pain is one of the greatest gifts we can give. And from understanding, we are gifted with the feelings that flow from compassion. If boundaries are needed, we must act with compassion. Compassion cares, and that is our freedom. We are free from becoming entangled, enmeshed, bound up in conflict. Freedom from staying a victim to what has happened. Finally, do I think that this is easy? No, I don't think it's easy. But after a few 100,000 years, we might want to try. We have the brains to do it. Now, do we have the courage to do it? To make choices in that space between stimulus and response, to stop and breathe, to deal with any of our own hurt and fear, that keeps us from being kind, and then being willing to listen, to understand, and to extend kindness, to strive, to be kind, no exceptions, no excuses. Oh, something else Thich Nhat Hanh said was understanding is love's other name. If you don't understand, you can't love. So in building our beloved community, I know that you understand we need financial support. So I think is it time now for us to pass the basket? And while the basket is being passed, if you have a joy or a sorrow that you would like to come up and light a candle for, please do that during the special music.
Good morning. I'm Alice Traylor, and I'm one of your UU Pastoral Care Associates. And at this time, we share from the book of Joys and Sorrows. It's located just outside this room, and you are encouraged to write any thoughts you wish to share prior to the service. We have one from Butch Perry. Where's Butch Perry? Okay, right there. He has both a sorrow and a joy. His sorrow is that his best friend was run over and killed December 27th, 2021. So our condolences. His joy is that it's his 73rd birthday. So congratulations. I think, Brian, are there comments from our YouTube watchers? Nope.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Butch. Happy birthday
And in the chat, we have from Michael Pace, says, we are at Trinity's ER. Mindy seems to be doing better, but has to say for observation, nothing to worry about this time. Joy, we were planning on coming in person today. Oh, well. I'm sure you'll get here when you can. That's good to hear that. And good to hear that she's not being admitted. And then from Susan Perry, a thank you for the reminder of Irene and Eugene Weimers. Yes, she had admiration for Irene, but also a bit of fear. And that's all we've got in the chat.
Thank you. We now enter into a moment of reflection, and to that end, I offer a quote from Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. As we come back from our private thoughts, focus outward, view the room, see each other. Remember to be patient and kind, for it is with connections to one another that we build the community of this place. May it be so.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. You imagine there's no country. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
My name is Cathy Wiedeman, and we've heard about kindness, and I'm going to talk about patience. And I know you've been patiently awaiting this. I just wish I was Aubrey, because I think she did a terrific job talking about patience, and I'm wondering where I am on this end of my finger. I'm going to skip the video, the first video. The first time I heard the word patience, I'm sure, was from my mother's mouth. I suspect I was very young and didn't even know what the word meant. I'm also pretty sure it went something like this: please be patient, or just a little patient, or why can't you be more patient? Maybe you can detect the slight change in tone in each of these statements, which is quite important. Notably, I also don't remember why she needed to say that. What I do know is that I've heard those words throughout my life and remember saying it to others in many situations. But what exactly is patience? And why do we need to remind people of it? Is it always a good thing? Patience is, by definition, when one is faced with suffering, provocation, or annoyance, we respond without complaint, loss of temper, or irritation. Common examples of things where patience is necessary include when we experience long lines at the grocery store, an injury or illness that is slow to heal, a confrontation with someone who is angry or inattentive. Some are causes of road rage, and that falls into this category as well. A second kind of patience is the ability to behave calmly in the face of delay or unexpected outcomes. We accept the situation and focus on the solution or an alternative. Finally, a person may strive to achieve patience by living a daily life of steady perseverance, diligence, or moderation, even when there doesn't seem to be enough hours in the day. There is always some connection with the pressure of time. Very briefly then, patience is the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset. I like quotes. Often they say things better than I say them, so I do have a few quotes on patience. Helen Keller said, "We could never learn to be brave and patient if there was only joy in the world." A man who is a master of patience is a master of everything else. How poor are they who have not patience? What wound did ever heal but by degrees? And that's from William Shakespeare. Jesse Jackson said, "I'm not a perfect servant. I am a public servant doing my best against the odds. As I develop and serve, be patient. God is not finished with me yet." A wise man is superior to any insults which can be put upon him, and the best reply to seemingly unseemly behavior is patience and moderation. And that's from Molière. Patience is the art of hoping, unknown. Patience has a place in the religious experience and is referenced in the writings of the major religions of the world. In the Jewish traditions, quote, patience is a greatly esteemed virtue. That's not a quote. Several Bible verses deal with impatience. From Proverbs, we learn a hot-tempered man provokes a quarrel. A patient man calms strife. And better a patient spirit than a haughty spirit. Don't let your spirit be quickly vexed, for vexation abides in the breast of fools. From Romans 28, we find that people are encouraged to believe in hope and wait for the unknown, and to do so with patience. And when we hope for what we cannot see, we wait with patience. And I think that often refers to the belief in a potential afterlife by those who believe in that. In 1 Corinthians 13:4, we learn love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant, but that it is patient and kind. Patience is a foundation in the Muslim tradition. From the Quran, the Muslim holy book, patience is represented by the words forbearance and endurance. Forbearance is a quality of self-restraint or of not giving way to anger, even in the face of provocation. It is attributed both to God and man and is closely related to mercy and compassion. The month of Ramadan was given the name, originally Shahr Sabar, which translates into the month of patience. Imagine how patient you have to be during the month of Ramadan. Patience is declared the main door for entering paradise, which is opened during Ramadan. Ramadan, quote, Ramadan is the month of patience, and there is no reward of patience save paradise. In the Theravada Buddhist beliefs, patience is motivated by the desire for inward and outward peace, and by faith in the ability to accept things as they are. In Buddhism, patience has three essential aspects: gentle patience, calm patience of hardship, and acceptance of the truth. Patience is not directly spoken to in our 8 Unitarian principles, but is implicit in the ideas of worth and dignity, compassion, acceptance of one another, and respect. We are also free to draw from other religious practices, and to develop our own personal truths and belief that guide our behavior. And I hope that today patience will become one of your guiding and all of our guiding principles of how we live. Sometimes when we define a word or an issue, it's the opposite that is useful and is sometimes important in its own right. And in this case, it would be impatience. Impatience occurs when something isn't happening fast enough for you, usually out of your control, or an annoyance that leads to complaint, loss of temper, or irritation. It is sometimes, but not always, associated with anger and physical symptoms of rapid heartbeat, tense muscles, and restlessness. And we've already heard about the rapid heart rate and the response to anger that we can experience. Sometimes I don't think we recognize that restlessness can be part of this response, where you just have to feel like you've got to get up and move. Impatience can lead you to say and do things you wouldn't otherwise do or say. Frequent acts of impatience can interfere with your sense of well-being and personal relationships. On the other hand, impatience may also lead you to action. When we have just had enough, it may lead you to do something constructive. You can learn a new way to drive to work, for instance, if your old way always takes you longer. You can talk to the person who is always late and holds up the meeting. You can join a people who would rather run than walk. In the ideal world, patience itself may be paired with action. Sometimes the proper action is to do nothing and wait, and sometimes it's not. It's also possible to learn how to become more patient. This is especially useful with the unpredictable situation. The benefits of becoming more patient are many, including feeling calmer, reducing your stress levels, being a better friend and family member. The Cleveland Clinic has actually published online 7 ways to help to become more patient, and I'm not going to talk to all of them, but I'd like to share with you some of the ones that you might not have thought of on your own. And one is to actively build tolerance. Let people go ahead of you in line. Don't be the first one to enter the intersection. That might even make it more safe. Consciously slow down. Drive the speed limit. Be playful. Laugh and find humor in your situation. You can even listen to funny podcasts if you find you have to wait too long. Be curious and be a good listener. In fact, talk to your positive self. It might sound like this. I have time. Everything doesn't have to happen at once. Other people are doing their best, and I'm doing my best. Just for fun, make a list of things that make you impatient. One of my personal impatient habits is my tendency to want to go to the end of the book and read the last chapter. The problem is, it may be instant gratification, but it sort of ruins the rest of the book. In life, you can find things that cause you to be impatient and then find a way to change that. And identifying those things can be the first step. And as a final thought, remember, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. And if you want to show the second video.
Okay, sit in that chair. All right, here's the deal. Marshmallow for you. You can either wait, and I'll give you another one if you wait, or you can eat it now. When I come back, I'll give you another, so then you'll have two. And stay in here and stay in the chair till I come back, okay? All right. I'm gonna go do something, and then I'll come back. It's yummy. It's really good. It's up to you. You can have it now or you can wait. Okay? I'll be back.
Moving.
Stay in the chair, okay? Okay.
do? Did you do good? You did? You wanted to eat it, didn't you? Yeah. So I thought you'd give me another one. I can have both.
Okay, you can turn it off now. Okay, we learn so much from children, don't we? Sometimes it works part way, and sometimes you just gotta have it. Oh, you can, yeah. Okay, so do we have another hymn?
Well,
What?
before,
Oh,
before we have a closing hymn now?
whenever you want it.
Well, we forgot to do the spotlight.
Oh.
And I do want to mention that in 2 weeks, we're to have the second time around sale. In the last week, we've only had one person, last week and a half, only one person has signed up. We do not have enough people to have the sale at this point, or according to the sign up. Now, people have said, well, I intend to. So I think what I'll do is I'll have Nicole send out an email tomorrow or the next day, and we'll give you some email addresses. If you're uncomfortable signing up on the sign-up sheet, we need to know if we have people who are willing to do the sale. It's a big job. It's a fun job. You even get lunch fixed for you if you're working. But we need people to sign up. Also, we're having a bake sale with that, which is a moneymaker. Those are filled with containers. And you can go down to the cup room, you can get a container, and you can fill it up. We'll put a pretty bow on it, and we'll sell that. At the sale that I got the idea from, in 3 hours, they made $600 just from their bake sale. And the last thing is, we have been donated, and I wish I knew who it was. Maybe Lucy? Someone in our congregation donated 20 pounds of organic beef. And so Ann and Darcy and I spent an afternoon making meatballs. We're going to be selling meatballs, spaghetti, and the sauce to take home and fix your dinner as part of that too. But we have containers and all. So please, could be a big money maker for us. We need your support though. Thank you.
Our closing hymn is number 144. Now is the time approaching. Please stand in body and or spirit.
Now is the time approaching, by prophets long foretold, when all shall dwell together, secure and manifold. Let war be learned no longer, that strife and tumult cease, all with the blessed garden, and God the God of peace. Let all that now divides us remove and pass away, like mists of early morning before the blaze of day. Let all that now unites us more sweet and lasting prove, a closer bond of union in blessed lands of love. O long-expected dawning, come with your cheering ray. Yet shall the promise beckon, and lead us not astray. O sweet anticipation, it cheers the watchers on, to pray and hope and labor, till all our work is done.
For the past many years, we've extinguished the chalice usually with the same words, as follows. We extinguish its flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love. And then it's the fire of commitment, with the emphasis on fire. I don't remember when that began, but I eventually stopped saying the word fire of commitment. I didn't feel the fire of commitment was more important than love or truth. My belief is that commitment can be profoundly powerful when guided with equal amounts of love and warmth. For today's service, I searched for something to replace the word fire. I began looking up Google synonyms for fire, and I found the following: blaze, combustion, inferno, pyre, conflagration, sea of flames up in smoke. I also found heat, luminosity, hearth glow, and radiance. I really liked the sound of radiance. The specific definition of radiance includes a quality of brightness and happiness that can be seen on a person's face, a warm, soft light that shines from something. Our congregation can be radiant. I also chose to change the word commitment for this service. For me, it lacked specificity. Commitment to what? So I changed the word for today to hope. Please join me in extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the radiance of hope. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you very much.